Everybody, Pete Francisco, K4KE. I know most of you in the room and most of you online too. I don't have a particular claim of expertise to this field. I have been a year and a few months licensed CAM operator. I've been involved in the maritime radio service, first licensed in 2000 as a merchant mariner and then a Coast Guard officer. So I'm familiar with, I've been familiar with radio communications, satellite communications for a while now, but never had the opportunity to reach out and, contact satellites in amateur radio. The first time I really thought about it was in some of the planning meetings for last year's field day. So I said, hey, by the way, we get some points if someone works a satellite. Is anyone willing to do that? And I said, well, I'll look into it. And so I bought the antenna that we'll talk about, had an HT, made an attempt on it last field day, and it didn't work out so well. Wasn't even sure if I was really getting out. I've kind of thought about it since then, really didn't do much with it, but then in anticipation of this meeting, doubled down on it and had some success that I'm happy to report on. Appreciate everyone who came out earlier tonight for our another attempt. I'd say we failed successfully this evening. We had a good. We received well. We tried to get out there, but there was just a pileup on the International Space Station, which does happen. So it's a busy repeater. That's the way to look at it. So we'll talk more about it. Sorry for the width. I should have remembered that the width on here is limited. But I do encourage you to, if you're really serious about working satellite contacts, look at the presentation when you get home. Feel free to look it over. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Google it. I consider myself a beginner who's had one successful repetition at this. So no one else is that far behind me here. But I've done some research and tried to put the good advice from others and also the successes that I had into this brief. So let's go ahead and continue.
Just hit the space bar.
Oh, that's great. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So just saying, sorry, it didn't do my interest.
Oh, got it. All right. Going to do a real brief history of amateur satellite communication. So first of all, we had the Soviets launching Sputnik 1 in 1957 on 1 watt up there, and it took them 100. It was a 184-pound satellite just to do 1 watt signal that was received terrestrially on 20 megahertz and 40 megahertz for only 22 days, right? So that was the beginning of people actually turning antennas to the sky to listen for things that were going on in space. During those 22 days, everyone was, so I read, everyone who had an antenna and radio that could tune to that was trying to figure out how they could turn skyward to hear the beeps of Sputnik. But just 4 years later, the first amateur radio satellite, Oscar 1, was launched in 1961. It was 22 pounds, and it transmitted at 140 milliwatts, Morse code HI, on the 2-meter band for 22 days. So again, a very short-term test in principle and testing concept to prove that it's a thing you can do, and it's a thing that the amateur radio community had a lot of interest in. The first one in 1965, Oscar 3, was the first one where we now can have a ground station contacting the satellite to relay to another ground station to do a contact, which is what most amateur radio contacts do today. It only lasted due to a battery failure 16 days, but it set the way for many other satellites in the future. Next slide, please. Thanks to that. All right, so 1974, Oscar 7, it was launched in 1974 and initially failed in 1981. It had a battery failure, a battery short, and people wrote it off. But then weird thing happened in 2002. It unshorted. The circuit opened, and people said, "Hey, there's a satellite out there that's responding," and so it's still active to this day, and it's one of the leading satellite out there, amateur satellites out there that people can reach on in two modes: a 10-meter 2-meter band, and also a 77-meter 2-meter operation. It is the oldest operational satellite in space, government, commercial, whatever purpose. Crazy story about that satellite. A more newer one is Russia's RS-44 satellite, launched in 2019. It's single sideband CW only on the 2-meter and 70 centimeter band. So you've got voice, you can do CW with satellites. We're going to get on talking about APRS packet. So we think about so many terrestrial ways of modes of doing amateur radio. Now you can turn skyward and do that. Do that in your 10 or 20-minute pass, trying to do your CW out there. Bob, new achievement to shoot for in your CW. There you go. All right, but the big one that we're going to be talking about tonight is the International Space Station. So starting in 2000, astronauts and cosmonauts making amateur radio contacts. They've switched out a couple times what radio systems they have on board, but hopefully this radio looks familiar to a lot of people in the room. I know we have that at Martha Jefferson Hospital. That's the Kenwood TMD 710GA. And they have two of those on the International Space Station to do the crossband repeater, and then another one to do the APRS packet. So it's not like they've got anything, and actually Kenwood used it in their marketing. Say, hey, this is the radio that's on the space station. That's actually pretty good marketing. But they don't have any for their ham radios that it's completely off the shelf type stuff. This ISS station crew utilized amateur radio for educational programs with school children, but then in their spare time on the space station, they can pick up the ham radio themselves and make contact with amateur radio operators. Next slide. I keep asking you, I'm sorry. All right. So how do you go about actually trying to make contact with an amateur radio satellite? And I should clarify everything I'm talking about now about how to actually do it. The license required is technician. All right, that's important to remember. This isn't the general or extra type level bands. We're talking about VHF, UHF. So if you got a license, last week, this is an option for anyone who's interested. You go to the amsat.org/status, and this is the page that shows up. And so I know it's very far from the people who are in the room looking, but here it shows the last 6 days of radio contacts that have been reported by amateur radio operators around the world. And it's color coded. Blue is the ones you want to focus in on. So you see blues, you go over and say, hey, what satellite is that? What satellite is that? Here's the list of all the satellites. Now, here's the ISS. It's got three rows: ISS data, ISS FM, and ISS SSTV for the TV signal that they occasionally do, which there's nothing on that line. It's not operating right now. They're operating the data, the APRS packet. So what I do is I say, all right, well, where are people having success? There's a lot of blue here, a lot of blue here, a lot of blue here. Let's check and see what those satellites are. Okay. And that is the RS-44. That's the Russian satellite that does the CW that I talked about earlier. What's this one? That's the ISS FM. So that's using the International Space Station as a repeater. What's this one up here? That's the Oscar 7 satellite that came back to life in 2002. All right, so I've already talked about some of the leading current candidates. What you also get internationally, especially, is CubeSats that are being launched by various governments and also universities around the world, and as experiments, as a demonstration of their growing technical capability. And they launch these CubeSats that sometimes work for weeks, sometimes months, sometimes years. It really depends on the CubeSat and the institution that's doing it. So you'll get new entries that pop up here, and sometimes they're also focused on certain regions of the world, depending on the type of orbit that they have. So not every satellite is appropriate for use in North America, but they're still listed here for the international community to know. So when you're looking at it to plan what you're wanting to do, click into each satellite, learn about what bands and modes it operates on, and note its uplink and downlink frequencies, and if there's any PL tone associated with that. You have to make sure your radio's set up to properly capture all that later on. For satellite beginners like me, it's recommended to try a satellite that works off of 2 meter and 70 centimeter FM voice, so that most handheld HTs can work with it. So that would be the leading candidates would be the International Space Station or the Oscar 7 satellite. The International Space Station is enjoyed and preferred, sought out by a lot of people because, well, like we saw tonight, near sunset, near sunrise, you can actually see it in the sky a lot of the time. But at a certain point, it goes dark once the satellite itself goes into darkness. But for a period there, it makes it a lot easier if you could just see the satellite in the sky, point your antenna right at it, and know that you're going to get a good signal versus having to move your antenna around, circle it around to try to get good signal. Also with the ISS, there's the remote chance that you might actually talk to an actual astronaut up there. One thing I didn't say, they have this purple column here, which is ISS crew voice active. So on the ISS FM, along this blue, all these blue reports, there's a purple one right here. So that means an astronaut at this time on October 8th, during this 2-hour block, an astronaut made contact with an amateur radio operator, and someone heard it and reported it on this website. So they do it. Okay, next up is equipment. What do you need to get talking to on an amateur radio satellite? The threshold is pretty low. You need an HT that is at least dual band on 2 meters and 70 centimeters. Even a Baofeng can do it. A lot of people have a lot of success with Baofengs. They have a not great reputation in the amateur radio community as far as a serious radio, but they work fine for contacting satellites. Then the biggest other thing is the antenna. All right. The most popular one out there is the Arrow 2 Yagi antenna. And this is a snippet from their website. It's handheld. It has VHF elements and UHF elements. They have 2 ports that the cables come out of here, one UHF, one VHF. They go into a duplexer in the handle, and then one cable comes out, which plugs into your HT radio. So then on your radio, you can set it up to UHF and on the ISS, we'll see it's VHF uplink, meaning your transmission, and then you receive on the UHF side back from the International Space Station. Some people have reported periods of short success with vertical antennas, regular vertical antennas, car mounted, home mounted, whatnot, but for very brief periods of time. And actually, because the where you're radiating from on a vertical is out horizontally to the side of it, so they catch. At least that's the way it's explained to me. So sometimes people get the satellites near the horizon. I would say, okay, well, if you're on an HT with a stick actually, and the satellite's overhead, turn it sideways so you're radiating up. If that's your only thing, and you might have some luck with it. But you know, it was about $191. A few bucks more if you need the proper connector. You have to be careful about the connector. It comes with BNC, but you have to be careful if you use SMA male or SMA female on your HT. But you know, as with everything with amateur radio, you could go further down the rabbit hole. You know, if you're an enthusiast on satellite communications, you could buy the $2,000. How much is going for the ICOM 9700? You know, that handles a lot of the features like handling the Doppler shift that it had to manually account for out in the parking lot. You could I couldn't see any off-the-shelf buy, but this is a tripod mount for the Yagi antenna, but it has a motorized mount for azimuth and altitude control, and it can be hooked up to computer to have computer control of it. So you set it up, and it'll automatically track the movement of the satellite across the sky, so you don't have to scope it out yourself. But there are people who, you know, buy off-the-shelf available materials to try to construct these. Okay. So now we've picked out the satellite we want to work. But now we want to see what are the opportunities for us to be able to make contact on it. I use the Go SatWatch app on my iPhone. And in there, you can get into the satellite screen, select amateur radio. It's nice that they have it all categorized. And then you can pick the amateur satellites that you're interested in. I've got ISS selected and a couple others that are reportedly good. And then I go back to, let's see. Yeah, each pass only lasts 10 to 20 minutes depending on the satellite. So, you know, you have to know pretty precisely when the satellite will be going over your head.
Do you know if there's an Android version of that app?
I assume so, but I don't know for sure.
I'll research it.
Yeah. I think it would be. So then you go back to the world screen of this app, and you can play for the pass. The ISS has its own special icon as you know, as the largest satellite out there, and you can advance the time in the upper right-hand corner. You click the time clock, and then you can slide the scale here to advance the screen, and then you want to see when the circle starts going over your location. I make a note of when the circle begins to go over my location, when the satellite is at its closest point to my location, and I also note the time when it's about to go out of range. I also try to make note of the general direction that it's going from and towards. So now we know, and also the nice thing about this is it'll actually show whether the satellite is illuminated by the sun or not. So when you plan for it, you'll know if you're trying to just point it at your antenna at the spot in the dark sky, or if you're actually going to potentially see a lit satellite like we did tonight for the first half of the pass. The next part is programming your radio to have success. My first times doing it, I did not program in as a station in my radio. I just tried to tune it manually, and that didn't go so well for a couple of reasons. One, there's the Doppler shift. Anytime you're trying to make contact with a moving object, and just, you know, to in layman's terms, to recall what I'm talking about, you know, like when a police car goes by, as it's approaching, it has one tone. When it's next to you, it has a different tone, and when it's past you and going away from you, it has another tone to it. That's due to its relative motion in relation to you, and that Doppler shift is comes into play for the frequency in transmit and receive that you have to account for. So I said 3, and I looked at some YouTubers had some good advice on exactly how much of a shift. Basically, it's one click in either direction. So 2 clicks is my station 1. 1 click away from the listed frequency is my station 2. The listed frequency is station 3. So 1 click, this ISS1 that I've called it here, this preset, that's when the satellites first coming in range. That's where it was when we started. And then 2 minutes later, I shifted to station 2 or channel pre-program 2, which is an incremental change closer. When it was right near overhead, I went to the 3rd preset, and you could really tell. I don't know if you heard tonight, but you could hear when it started to get a little staticky. Then I would shift to the next one until I got to the end, as it was heading away from us. Again, this is what chirp looks like to me using my Wilson Q10H radio. So the chirp for your radio, you use a different programming software, it may look different for you. Just to go through each column here, the frequency here is the receive or downlink. I have a name for it. I have the tone of 67. I put it into split mode, and here, instead of like an offset, like for a repeater, I actually put in the actual transmit frequency here, and of course FM mode. Any questions about this screen before I move on?
I've noticed that the transmit frequency that you're offset, the middle 3 are all the same.
Yeah, that was the recommended. I don't know why that is exactly, whether it's less, the transmit is less effective because it's VHF or UHF. Maybe that's because of the frequency. It's in a different band. It's less susceptible to the Doppler issue.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes, the difference between VHF and VHF.
All right. Now we're in the execute phase of making contact. So in my smartphone, I set it up, I go into voice memos and I record the session because I don't have enough hands or time to write down everything that's going on. There's, if you're fortunate to have someone else with you, like I did tonight, that's a great benefit. There was a lot of people, and Bob was holding my smartphone for me as I was had the radio and the antenna in my hand. I just don't, ran out of arms. So start the voice memo, then I switch back into Go Sat Watch, and I go into the sky view, and then it gives me basically a heads up display of, it shifts as I turn. It's aware of my compass direction. So I oriented the phone with that ahead of me, and I just hold it up there, the antenna, until I could hear anything. We heard this, the International Space Station. I heard it ident, and then I started to hear traffic coming from it. And then a couple minutes after we made visual contact with it, or actually a couple minutes after we started hearing it, it popped up above the tree line, and we could very easily see it from there. And so then, as it just progressed, Bob was turned the phone, and I would just turn the antenna to follow. At that time, I could see it, but then at a certain point, it went into darkness. So Bob had to orient me in the right direction, based on the app there until it got out of range. All right. Point the antenna to the satellite. If operators are using the station, you'll hear them. But the issue I had a couple days ago was, it was 6:15 tonight. It was 6:15 p.m. That's peak time, dinner hour. Everybody's off at work. So a lot of people it was a pile. It sounded like field day on there this evening. Yeah. So it was really, we didn't succeed tonight because there were so many people trying to get on there, and we were fighting with people with more power than what I was putting out on my HT. But the issue I had the other night was at 2:30 in the morning was that nobody was on it. So I wasn't even sure if I was putting it at the right location. It was in the dark, it was overcast. And then on the app, it showed, well, it's basically overhead at this point. I'll just point it straight up. And I was about to broadcast, and all of a sudden I heard someone broadcast on it. And then I freaked out almost in my haste to respond to them and hoping that I would be heard. Some protocol things are a little different when you're working satellites than when you're working terrestrial radio. We don't usually call CQ or give signal strengths on working satellite. We just get right to the meat of the transmission and the exchange. We give call sign and grid. We're FM 08 here. Here and points north in our region. You go any south here, you're in FM 07. Down in Scottsville, I'm FM 07. So the exchange is usually something like Kilo 4 Kilo Echo, Fox Mike 07. And they shorten Foxtrot to Fox too, just to get rid of another syllable. That means I'm here looking to make contact. It's my call sign, this is my grid. Someone hears me, they say, K4KE, this is Whiskey 4 Delta Oscar, Fox Mike 08. They give their call sign in their grid. W40, K4KE, Roger, QSL 73. That's as short as the exchange needs to be. Especially when there's a pileup, it's going to get more complicated than that. We heard a lot of people stepping on it, trying to reconfirm QSL, things like that. It's almost like, a field day, even when it's not.
If the astronauts aren't operating, you just use it as a repeater.
It's just a repeater. Like I said, it's extremely rare that the astronauts are.
Have you made contacts in the repeater mode with ground terrestrial hams?
I succeeded once with terrestrial hams. I've never heard an astronaut when I've tried either. I really would have been kicking myself if I heard an astronaut and didn't make contact. That would really suck.
Like tonight.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is going to work, but I actually, like I said, I voice record the sessions because it helps me for the log if I do have anything to log, and also just to prove it to anyone in case they were suspicious if I'm not telling the truth or not, but about a contact. Here we go. I don't know how loud this is going to be. We're hearing stuff.
Before November Echo Golf, Kilo 4 Kilo Echo. W4NEG K4KE Fox Mike 07 in Virginia. Beautiful signal. First time satellite contact here. Sir, thanks so much. You made my day. Have a great one. 73.
And that's it. That's 41 seconds was the actual time of the contact there. So it wasn't exactly the format that I laid out there. But like I said, he just sometimes if you're not even sure anyone's right, you just throw out your call sign and wait to hear someone call back. And that's what I did. Actually, the rustling of the leaves, that's the first thing you heard. I was like, I almost dropped the walkie out of my hand because I was just so shocked that it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I didn't want to miss. It's actually working. All right. We succeeded. We made a contact. Now what do we do? Well, the logging is virtually identical to normal logging, but there's one extra step because there's a couple fields that your logging software may not be accustomed to using if using the usual software programs for terrestrial log. So the way to make sure you do it right is through ARL's TQSL software file. from the file edit screen. And then this is what it pops up with. It shows each record. You go to the record of the contact that you've already logged but had not submitted yet. And then you go through, make sure the call sign's right, but then you have the option for the 2 bands in there. So you want to make sure for the International Space Station, the band is 2 meter, that's the uplink. The downlink is the RX band listed here, that's 70 centimeter. You put in the frequencies, propagation mode, you pick satellite, and then you have to choose the specific satellite you were working. And in this case, the International Space Station is listed as ARISS, which stands for Amateur Radio on the International Space Station. For a few minutes, that plummets me. I'm like, what is this? I'm looking for ISS. I don't see ISS. I see this other one. And that's it. That's a proper log. That's the end of my presentation. Are there any questions? Now on the sky view, you can see it here. You see the space station icon popping up on the screen there. So then I just line it up with the direction.
He just got an ident.
Yes, I heard it.
Yeah, sure.
That's it.
That's it.
Kilo 4, Kilo Echo, Fox Mike 08.
Kilo Victor 4, India, K4KE, Echo Lima 99, QSL Roger. QSL, I got.
It's busy tonight. This is a pilot.
Echo Lima 95.
All right, it's been a couple minutes. I'm going to switch to the next one.
Pretty strong signal.
I'm going to go back.
What are you switching to?
So it's kind of for the Doppler. I haven't pre-programmed.
Come back with the call, please. Kilo Victor 4, India, Echo Lima 98, KV4I, QSL 4.
There it is.
Kilo 2, Charlie Delta Kilo. Kilo 4, Whiskey Wing.
There it is.
Yep, there it is. See it?
Wow.
See the white dot in the tree?
Oh, just above the horizon.
Yep.
But
That's it.
Yep.
Wow.
track, doesn't it?
QSL correction, Charlie Delta Kilo, CDK.
There's so many people.
The 99, directly vertically. Beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
KV4I. KV4I, Kilo 4, Yankee, Echo Lima. Kilo 4, Echo. Kilo Echo 3, Joseph, have a good night. Down here, have a good night, Echo Lima. K3SRQ, Echo Lima 87. K4, go, Kilo Victor 4, Indy, try it again. Yeah, Kilo 4, Yankee, Echo Lima 98, thanks, Roger. Got it, thank you, KV4. Kilo
Station
4,
from higher power.
India, Kilo 4, PI, Echo Lima 99, QSL Kevin. Dickhead is back, I'm out. Not again. 4, Mike. Come on, Delta Link, Echo Kilo 99. Echo Kilo 99, come back. Kilo Echo 2, Charlie Delta Kilo.
Kilo Echo,
Charlie Delta Kilo.
Kilo Echo 2, Charlie Delta.
Lima 99, thanks, sir.
Kilo Echo 2,
Charlie Delta Kilo.
Charlie.
LB. Echo 2, Charlie Delta.
And it idents.
This signal's a lot stronger.
Search for PIT0 LB Fox Mike 183.
Oh, come on now. Kilo 4, Kilo Echo, Fox Mike 08.
Charlie Delta. Kilo 4, Yankee
people stepping on each other.
Kilo 0, Lima Bravo, Kilo Victor 4 India. K0 LB.
We're gonna move over this way now.
That's pretty neat.
It's about to go dark in a minute. Right now, it's in the sunlight up there, but it's about to pass into the sunset up there in a few seconds. And it's going to blink out. Kilo 4 Kilo Echo Fox Mike 08.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
It's gone.
Someone's Hey Larry.
Who knows that?
Happy service. You better apply to anybody out there, over.
Yeah, me. Let me get on. Kilo 4 Kilo Echo Fox Mike 08. Come on.
Almost losing it. See, look where we're at.
Lima Bravo, good evening from Kilo 4 Yankee Echo Lima and Echo Lima 98.
What was that? Kilo.
USL, thanks for your service. K0.
Kilo 4 Kilo Echo Fox Mike 08. Let's try. And it's gone.
Give it a shot.
That's like
Hey, we
that's like a
definitely
field
heard
day.
a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
We saw it, we heard it.
And they're only, would you say most of these stations are running